Do you think that it's a little chilly in here?
No.
Okay.
Do you?
Maybe I just thought that because of this cold open.
That's so dumb.
Whatever. Listen, so we got Adam Livingston episode today, but there's a few things we got to talk about. You went to the fair.
I did.
And I abstained from the fair. So tell us how the fair was.
So on the last episode, I was talking about how excited I was to go to the fair because they have the little pig race and they get Oreos at the end.
Yeah.
Guess what they didn't have at the fair this year?
Oreos.
The little pig race. I'm sure there were Oreos somewhere, but they did not have the little pigs, and I was so sad. But
they always, usually there's somebody there making like the deep fried Oreos.
Yeah, for sure.
So
we
I've
still had a
never
lot
had
of fun,
one.
though. You've never had a deep fried Oreo?
No. It's kind of one of those things, like as unhealthy as I eat, like it's almost one of those things where like I'm worried about trying because that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back on my heart attack.
It's definitely one of those foods that you only want to eat once, but you're glad that you did once. And then you're done with it and you don't ever want it again.
All right.
We did have a lot of fun though. They had some animals there that I have not seen at the fair before. They had kangaroos and a dingo and a wallaby. So
a dingo ate my baby.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
Pretty cool. So what? What are you laughing at?
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
No, but it was fun. We got really good food. We got the roasted ear of corn, of course, because we always get that at the fair. Really good lemonade. They had a new funnel cake this year. It was Fruity Pebble funnel cake. That was delicious. So good.
Yeah.
And there was something else that I'm forgetting. But really good food. Lots of cute animals. We had a good time.
We also went to the Cryptid Bash last Saturday.
Yes, in
Number
Hyco.
3.
Yes, so I think we had said we weren't sure how long it had been going on, but so this was the third one. It was so fun.
Yeah, it was. And they had pepperoni rolls there. So love that. There was a lot of vendors there that I didn't expect there to be, I don't know really what I expected, but
I did not expect it to be as big as it was. I think there were over 40 vendors, I want to say.
Really?
I think I saw that on their Facebook page that there were over 40, or maybe that includes the bands, maybe. 40 people.
I don't know. I didn't think, there was definitely a lot. There's a lot of people selling like their artwork, which like I'm jealous of anybody that does like visual art because like I'm barely competent enough with like that stuff to do my job in Photoshop. So I'm like, if you can just like make stuff up and be an artist, then like good on you. Cause
there were so many good vendors there. And if you have time, go find the Cryptid Bash Facebook page. They had a list of all the vendors that were there. There was such cool stuff, like stickers, jewelry, prints, all kinds of things.
Yeah. We both got books.
Yes. So
what's her name?
We were going to talk about that. We got books from an author she was named Jeanette Quackenbush. And she had all these different books about, I think, like her experiences traveling around and going to these spooky sites. So I got one called West Virginia Ghost Stories, Legends, Haunts, and Folklore. And then you got her one that was more about the cryptids and stuff.
Yeah, I got her monster book.
Yeah, and she signed our books. And she wrote Boo on the inside. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, so that was really cool. She was so nice. Jeanette Quackenbush, she has a podcast. I pulled it up on my phone because I wanted to make sure I got the name right. So on iHeartRadio, her podcast is Sometime Between Dusk and Dawn Ghost Stories. And then she also has a YouTube channel called Lone Ghost Rider. So check her out.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, she's super nice too.
She was so nice. I liked talking to her.
So yeah, we told her we would shout her out to everybody.
Yeah, her book's really
have you read that book yet?
I haven't had the chance to really sit down and read it, but I've looked through it different parts, and it's really cool. It has pictures of the places in it, and she puts the exact GPS coordinates. Yeah. So if someone was trying to go find this place, she's very thorough. She has addresses, GPS coordinates, lots of photographs. It's really neat. And there's a lot of stuff in here that I've never heard of before. A lot of times when you pick up these books, it's all the same stories, like the top major ones, but she has a ton. And she had, I want to say like 4 or 5 books on her table, maybe more. So she's pretty knowledgeable.
No, she had a lot of books.
Yeah.
It was kind of, I think has like series of each.
Add a few more S's to that word.
Yeah. So there was like a lot of ghost books and a bunch of stuff. So, but she's super nice, and she offered to sign our books, and
that was cool. And she gave us a little bag to carry them home in.
Yeah, like a little mesh, like whatever that's called.
Like perfectly book sized.
Yeah.
That was cool. So tons of cool vendors, lots of good music, good food, and great coffee. I got to talk about the coffee.
Yeah, so that's what we're drinking today.
It's so good.
It's Red Eyes Brew, and that was made in conjunction with, so actually the Cryptid Bash was put on by the Moth Boys podcast.
With Free Folk Brewery.
Yeah, and so this this coffee was made in conjunction with the Moth Boys. This is from Mountain Table that makes this coffee.
And that you can Rennick, West Virginia.
Yeah, Rennick, West Virginia, and so they've got a bunch of like different kind of coffee stuff they're like a local kind of place. And I found them on Instagram and stuff, so you can find them. But this is called Red Eyes Brew.
For Mothman.
Yeah. So made in conjunction with the Moth Boys. And it's actually really good. So
it's super good.
Yeah, they gave us a little taste test. I don't know. I'm not like a big coffee drinker. Like I only drink coffee here
on the podcast days
and on holidays.
Yeah.
So I'm not like a coffee person, but it doesn't taste horrible to me. And it's actually really good. So
yeah, and I'm an everyday coffee drinker. I love coffee. I drink it all the time, and this is seriously good coffee. So definitely check it out if you like that kind of stuff. We
were drinking the Bones Coffee Company before.
Big fan of Bones also.
Yeah. And they're I would always have their chocolate, Army of Dark Chocolate.
Yeah. And before that I had S'more Time, and I had a picture of Bigfoot on the bag. Their packaging's pretty neat.
Yeah, which this is, they've got like a Moth Boys little sticker there. Mm-hmm. But it's just, it looks like I know every time I touch this, it's going to pop up in the light. But,
yeah. We had fun I had fun at the fair. We had a lot of fun at Cryptid Bash. And school has started.
School, I was going to ask you about that. How's that treating you?
It's going really well. I have a great group of kids, and I love teaching. It's just the first, week back is always pretty intense.
Yeah. So last week you started in the middle of the week, right?
Yeah. So I was there all week, and the kids came for their first time on Thursday, and it is now Monday. So this was our first real day of school with all our curriculum and everything. Right. And they're doing such a good job. They're so good.
So this will be your first actual full week back to school with your students and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's very cool. Speaking of back to school, the podcast is partnered with Amazon this week.
Yay!
So I will put a link in the description there's a back to school link. So it'll take you to a page that has Amazon's category for back to school and school supplies and everything. And so you can, cool. I'll put it in the description, and I'll also put it in the link on our Facebook page for the photo dump for this episode. But if you click the link in the description, you can find all kinds of the back to school deals. There's up to 40% on certain school supplies. So that, already is good, but, any kind of discount is good, but, you can actually shop by specific grades or, your specific needs, like your desk organization, or you can shop by sports or laundry and personal care products, or, my personal favorite, the lunch and snack time items.
Everybody's favorite.
So you can even sort by certain characters, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like if you like Spider-Man, or your kid likes Spider-Man or whatever, you can search by that. So they've pretty much got everything on there. But anything you need to get for your student this school year, or I know we have a few teachers that listen to the podcast. If you need anything for your students or for your classroom or for yourself, for, desk organization or just general office supplies or anything, all of that stuff is on there. So any of that can be found using that link, and any kind of purchases that you make using that link also helps us out. So it's a good partnership because it's stuff that people already need, and you get a discount. and you get to help us out, your favorite
Everybody
creeps.
uses Amazon.
So, yeah, which is kind of the whole point. So,
yeah.
And it's an easy way to, like, you just show up and here's the entire list of everything that you would ever need.
Right.
And you can sort by everything. So
that's pretty cool.
I saw it and I was like, this is insanely convenient. So I'm putting it in.
Good job.
So, yeah. Yay. So do you have everything for your classroom already?
I have everything we need at the moment, but there's definitely going to be more stuff that I'll have to order. I've got my eye on a few things.
Yeah. I always feel like
Need erasers.
Like every couple of weeks you're like, oh yeah, I need to stop at the store and get this one thing.
Yeah. I went to Dollar General at 9:30 p.m. last night because I remembered I needed popsicle sticks for today. So I had to run out and grab some.
Yeah, I need to get this one supply for this one activity that I'm doing this week.
Yeah.
I'm never going to use it again.
No, that's no joke how it goes. You open any cabinet in a classroom and there's like blue sand that you needed for something 7 years ago, but don't want to get rid of it in case you need blue sand again.
Yeah. Of course, if you do need it, then either you've already thrown it away or there's not enough to actually use, so you're going to have to get more anyway.
That's so real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that we're going to get into the episode, but just to let everybody know, if you, in the description for this episode or on our Facebook post with the photo dump and everything, if you click the link and it'll take you to all the school supplies. So if you need anything, follow that link, it'll take you there, and then it also helps us out. So
very cool.
Very cool. Anyway, without further ado, do you have any other thing
to
get into?
I'm ready.
Okay. This is the Wizard Clip episode, Adam Livingston episode of the podcast. I'll come up with a better name whenever I edit it and go to post it on our RSS feed.
Okay.
But so this happened in Middleway, West Virginia. And it's a very small town, a very quiet town. As of 2010's census, the population was 441, and in 2020, it was 396. However, after 1794, things weren't so serene. After a traveler passed away while lodging with Adam Livingston and his family. This is Country Roads Creeps.
Yay!
I thought I was going to trip you up before, but...
yeah, I almost said it way too early.
I know. I was like, let's see. But so this has been called the truest ghost story ever told. That's
spooky.
Yeah. And
I haven't heard it.
Speaking of, because I know I mentioned this on the last podcast, I saw like an Instagram video or something like that. I don't know. But it said this is like the scariest Appalachian ghost story. It's scary, but I wouldn't say it's like the scariest thing I've ever heard come out of Appalachia.
Right.
So a little bit of like the Instagram words being tricked me into doing this episode. So
that happens a lot with, I read a lot, so my Instagram is pretty attuned to like books and stuff. And some books will get so hyped up on there, like, that is the best book ever. And you read it and it's just trash. So you can't always trust Instagram. Yeah. But still, I think it's going to be a cool story.
Yeah. So we're going to get into it. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is the history of the town, just so everybody's on the same page. On January the 15th, 1786, the Virginia General Assembly passed an act establishing the town of Smithfield on land owned by John Smith II and William Smith. A post office was established in 1806, and since there was another town called Smithfield in the state, a different name was needed to avoid confusion. Because Smithfield had become a center of commerce between several other towns, the post office became known as Middleway. And Middleway remains a small village and retains many of its historical buildings today. The Middleway Historic District was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1980. The area where the town grew was first visited by John Smith I and his sons John Smith II and Reese Smith in 1729. And by 1734, they had established a grist mill and a hemp mill. In the 1790s, in an effort to increase the town, the Smithfield promotion was undertaken, and this did increase the size of the town, but it kind of stagnated from then on. So the town has also been known as Wizard Clip, or just Clip, and townspeople are known as Clippers. And this is the result of the legend we're going to talk about today from the 1790s. And so that's basically just the history of the place, just so for the historical context and so everybody's on the same page.
Clippers sounds a little ominous as a nickname.
Yeah. And
it sounds like a serial killer, like, oh, watch out, lock your doors, the Clippers on the loose.
The middle way Clipper is outside your windows. Hide your kids, hide your wife.
The middle way Clippers getting everybody.
It sounds ominous in this context because it's a spooky podcast, but if we were a sports podcast, then the Clippers would just be like a
basketball team.
Yeah, I think they are a basketball team. And this is going to be really embarrassing if I
don't know anything about sport.
Yeah, me neither. But your husband Dirk likes sports, I think.
Yeah, he does.
So it's a baseball team. You guys are dumb. So anyway, so here is the story of Wizard Clip. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. This story is part of the oral history of the area and was coined by Reverend Alfred E. Smith, the editor-in-chief of the Catholic Review and secretary to Cardinal Gibbons, as the quote-unquote the truest ghost story ever told.
Ooh.
Yeah, I wish I had like a spook sound on here, but we don't. Anyway, so that Cardinal Gibbons, that's James Gibbons. And so he was born in 1834 and died in 1921. And he was the senior ranking American prelate of the Catholic Church who served as apostolic vicar of the Apostolic Vicariate of North Carolina from 1868 to 1872, Bishop of the Diocese of Richmond in Virginia from 1872 to 1877, and as the 9th Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Baltimore in Maryland from 1877 until his death in 1921, and he was elevated to the rank of cardinal in 1886. So, super high-ranking Catholic guy.
Right.
Had the robes and everything. So, this story varies somewhat, being an oral story that's been passed down since the 1700s. And also because some of the details get a little bit skewed over time anyway.
Yes,
And
they do.
there's not really a gigantic ton of actual physical paper records of this. So the story varies somewhat from article to article, mostly in how the story begins. Some saying that Adam Livingston's bad luck began for him at his farm in Pennsylvania. For unknown reasons, his Pennsylvanian property had begun experiencing a host of calamities, from his cattle dying off to his barn burning to the ground. And looking for a fresh start, Livingston and his family had packed up and moved. Anyway, the most common telling of the story starts with sometime in 1794, a traveling stranger, who's unnamed in every telling that I've seen of this. This traveling stranger visited the Livingston farm, which also not super uncommon for this to happen because it's not like hotels and inns are, like everywhere.
Right.
So you're traveling for miles and miles between towns. So lodging at a family farm wasn't really like a strange occurrence. So you didn't have really Airbnb back in the 1790s.
Yeah.
So
you had to just hope that somebody would be kind and take you in.
Yeah. So which the Livingstons were. But shortly following his arrival, the stranger grew ill and quickly worsened. And he requested that Livingston fetch a Catholic priest, because this guy was a Catholic, to perform his last rites and take care of the body after he died, and with respect to whatever the Catholic traditions are after your death. So this is where another variation of the story comes in. Either Livingston attempted to find a priest but was unable to get one in time, or The most common telling, and the official one according to this podcast, is that he refused because he was a devout Lutheran and despised Catholics.
Oh, sad.
Yeah. So the Roman Catholic traveling stranger died without attention from a priest.
No.
And it's said that candles would not stay lit in the room where his body was held. And regardless of the telling that you believe, he was still unceremoniously buried on the farm on unconsecrated ground.
That is sad and bad. Do you think like his farm before the traveling stranger, like his cows were dying off and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that his farm was also on an ancient Indian burial ground, cursed land, like the Clay family farm from the Lake Shawnee episode. And then it got even double extra cursed when the traveling stranger didn't get his last rites and was buried improperly.
Well, so it was a different farm in a different state. Yeah.
So now they've cursed 2 areas of land.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And then so I didn't see anything really about it, honestly, but so his cows and stuff were dying off, his barn burned to the ground.
So bad area of luck number 1.
Yeah. But so I didn't see that in every article. So,
well, we can just pretend that that's the truth.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, he did move to, at the time was Virginia. So this wasn't West Virginia yet.
So he could have had a fresh start, but now his land is cursed again.
Yeah. So shortly after this guy's death, the Livingstons' home became plagued with strange goings-on,
happenings.
Strange happenings. Things were never the same.
That's unfortunate.
And I wrote this in bold. What happens next was attested to by dozens of the Livingstons' neighbors.
Ooh. ...
I put a, what's that called? Thinking
Ellipses.
Dots in? Ellipses, yeah.
Not the thinking dots.
So the sound of galloping, invisible horses racing around, and loud footsteps around the house awakened the family at night. Money disappeared and reappeared in odd places. The heads and legs of his chickens and geese dropped off suddenly, almost as if they were cut off.
Stop it.
By some invisible force.
Shame.
And some of the livestock would disappear and die.
No, that's so scary.
Yep.
Ew.
Burning chunks of logs flew about from the fireplace. We'll come back to that in a minute. Dishes, glass, and ceramics would be smashed on the ground. Stones and other objects would fly through the air. Fires and candles would go out by themselves without no one nearby. With no one nearby, not without no one. One account even claimed that their beds would burst into flames randomly.
What?
And their barn once again burned to the ground.
No, that gave me chills. That's so scary. And you said like several people testified to that?
The neighbors, yeah. So like all the 4 people in Middlewood.
Yeah. That's enough.
Yeah. So
that's so scary.
Another one of the odder accounts claimed that one afternoon, Livingston saw a man stopped in the road with a wagon, and the man demanded that Livingston remove the rope that was stretched across the roadway. And when he said there was no rope, the driver angrily slashed at it with his knife, but the blade passed through nothing. And another wagon came along at the same time, and this driver also saw the rope, but he couldn't cut it either. And finally, Livingston convinced them to move on.
What?
Yeah.
That's weird.
So that's kind of one of the weirder accounts of that. But
that is very strange.
There's a ghost rope in the middle of the road that's stopping everybody from going through.
I wonder what the reason for that would be.
Now, you remember last episode, and you had sent me a Snapchat of your notes when it was in bold, and you said, but wait, there's more.
And it gets worse. Yeah.
I also sent you a Snapchat.
Yeah, and it spooked me.
Yeah. Then came the clipping.
I hate that so much. Not the clippings.
Yeah.
Ew.
So, and it's just a barber with like everybody's heads get shaved.
You're cutting your hair against your will.
No. So this is where the name of the town comes in, Clip. And Wizard Clip, the name of this legend, and the townspeople are called Clippers. The Livingstons heard metallic sounds of clipping day and night for years. All sorts of materials, fabric, sheets, and boots were clipped with half-moon shapes and other figures.
What?
And the curtains and sheets and clothes and valuables were cut to ribbons. And like I said, these manifestations of cuttings and clippings continued for a number of years, and it kind of became a thing of novelty that was heard across many towns. The town itself actually became known as Clip, and the townsfolk known as Clippers, and people would travel from all around to see what the talk was about. The ghost itself is actually where we get the term wizard clip, and it comes from the original poltergeist activity and the obvious clipping. Anyway, one account was of a visitor who wrapped her cap in a handkerchief. I saw where she was visiting specifically because of the novelty of the haunting, which explains why she would wrap the cap in like a little handkerchief for protection. So she announced at a tea party in Martinsburg that she was going to visit the family to satisfy her curiosity. And upon her arrival, she placed a brand new Gucci silk cap. It wasn't Gucci, but it was fancy, right? She placed it in her pocket all wrapped up, and when she was leaving, she reached into her pocket to find her new hat and handkerchief all cut to shreds. And I did see one account where the handkerchief was untouched, but the hat was all cut up, which I think is a lot spookier.
Yeah.
Livingston and his family sought help from a Lutheran pastor, because Livingston himself was a Lutheran, who he said he didn't think he could be of any help. So for this entire story, the award for smartest Lutheran, or I guess like smartest denomination of Christianity, goes to Lutherans. Because he's like, I don't want anything to do with this.
I don't want to be a part of that. No, thank you.
So an Episcopalian failed. 3 Methodist pastors visited, which is one was pelted with stones, and the 3 stood dumbfounded after seeing a rather large stone cast from the fireplace and spin on the floor for 15 minutes.
No.
So this is where that joke comes from, where like, how many Methodist pastors does it take to get rid of a poltergeist? More than 3.
What?
Anyway, Livingston broadened his search to other conjurers and spiritualists, all who tried and failed to banish the spirit from the home. One night, Livingston dreamed of a robed man and heard, quote, "This is the man who can relieve you," end quote. An Italian neighbor told him that only priests wore those kinds of robes, and based on this, despite his prejudices and all the things that he didn't really love about Catholics, he persuaded a frontier priest, Father Dennis Cahill, to come to Wizard's Clip. Cahill originally laughed it off as a prank, or like neighbors playing a joke or tricks on him, but he was eventually convinced to come at least sprinkle holy water around the house. So
that's good.
Neat. After Father Cahill blessed the home, a previously missing bag of money was dropped right at the doorstep, and some of the manifestations changed. Later, Father Cahill returned with Father Demetrius Gallitzin, who heard the tale of the clip at his home in Conewago, Pennsylvania, and he said a mass at the house, after which the haunting ceased. Gallitzin later wrote a long report to his bishop, John Carroll, about the events, but the document was lost, although he does mention it in other of his writings, such as Gallitzin's letters in a chapter titled A Letter to a Protestant Friend. So the haunting stopped after that. And that's the story of Wizard Clip. But that's not the end of the story.
I was like, there has to be more.
Because there's voices too.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
Here we go.
Let's get into that.
Here we go.
This is so weird.
So, Father Joseph Finati assembled every witness account he could find in a book entitled The Wizard Clip in 1878, including testimony from neighbors and families who had been children during the occurrences or who had heard the story from their parents. all attested to the fact that while the tormented haunting had ceased, it was replaced by the voice, a beautiful voice that spoke to the family and certain neighbors for over 17 years.
I'm sorry. What?
Yes. The voice, often accompanied by blinding heavenly lights, instructed the Livingstons in the Catholic faith and led them in daily rosaries for the souls in purgatory, waking them 3 times each night for prayer. The Jesuit brother Joseph Mobberley, writing an account in the 1820s, believed that Livingston had been examined by no less than Bishop Carroll himself, who was amazed at the knowledge this barely literate farmer had of the faith.
Wow.
Yep. So 17 years they lived with this voice. And he, told them all about Catholicism. Oh, excuse me. Told them all about Catholicism.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And they were just good after that?
Yeah, so this bishop was like, I can't believe, this guy can barely read.
Yeah.
And he knows everything about our faith.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, there were physical manifestations from the voices as well. For instance, at one point, a daughter was grumpily wondering why she had to pray for the souls in purgatory because she decided it must not be too bad to be in purgatory. Suddenly, a nearby towel bore a burnt but perfectly outlined handprint on the fabric in between each finger was intact.
I don't like that.
The voice told her that this was how the souls in purgatory suffered. At another point, Livingston was out plowing when the voice let him hear the wailing of the suffering souls longing for heaven.
That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Don't like that.
The Livingstons moved to Loretto to become Father Gallitzin's parishioners, and he donated the Middleway farm to the use of the church. The voice had foretold that, quote, before the end of time, that would be a great place for prayer and fasting, end quote. And for almost 2 centuries, it stood fallow, known as the Priest's Field, until the diocese built a retreat center on the spot.
I think I would have tried to move a lot sooner than decades later if I was getting haunted.
Right. So it's easy to imagine Middleway in the 1790s because it hasn't really changed much. Originally, a bustling crossroads, later roads and railroads bypassed it. Left alone, the village retains many early homes and outbuildings. In 1978, Middleway earned recognition by the National Registry of Historical Places, with 60-some historic buildings contained within the original village footprint. Triangular signs featuring a pair of scissors with the crescent moon mark the village's walking tour. So you can go here and tour it. And I'll put it on the photo dump, but there's all kinds of these signs and stuff that have information about it. And then these signs with a pair of scissors and the crescent moon shape on it.
Yeah.
Kind of neat.
Cool.
So Father Gallitzin went on to become a prominent frontier missionary priest. The Apostle of the Alleghenies is what he was called. In 2005, he attained the first step to sainthood by being designated a servant of God, which is a pretty highfalutin title to be given to a Catholic person.
Yeah.
So, in 2013, an Italian-based priest was designated as postulator for Gallitzin case, or postulator for the Gallitzin case. Other actions by the Vatican must be taken before he can be canonized as a Roman Catholic saint. So, that's this guy's kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
But he helped out this family and was such a big prominent guy in this case and helping them out and stuff and got this nice place built.
Mm-hmm.
He may eventually be recognized as an actual a saint for the Catholic Church, which is kind of interesting. There's actually when I was in college, I took a class where we talked about a lot of it wasn't specifically this kind of class, but we read a lot of stories where there were people that were named as saints and the stories that were told about them that made them get their sainthood. And some of it was pretty cool. But anyway, so this is a pretty nice quote from this website, religionunplugged.com. And this says, quote, "Thanks to the generosity of a man who lived over 2 centuries ago, men and women find solace today. Whether Adam Livingston acted out of penance for his own intolerance is unknowable, but today the center welcomes people of all beliefs, groups from quilters to Alcoholics Anonymous to yoga practitioners come here. Each summer, the nonprofit Some, So Others Might Eat, brings 120 low-income seniors from the hot, harried heat of Washington, D.C. They welcome the opportunity to experience peace and quiet and to hear the wind chimes on land once, maybe beset by the metallic clip of scissors." End quote. So
that's strange. So you have like this land that was haunted for decades is now a place of like peace and escape.
Yeah, thanks to the Catholics.
Good for them.
But have the strange events of the past really ended?
Oh no.
Some say they haven't. A priest who was leading a tour of the retreat had his metal-rimmed glasses snipped in two by an unseen force, and tourists who have visited the site have reported camera straps, purses, clothing, and other items have been mysteriously cut to pieces.
No, they're still getting clipped.
Still getting clipped.
That's so weird.
Yep. So that's the case. It's been known as a famous case of a poltergeist from some of the reading that I've done, which and it fits. So because poltergeists move stuff around all over the place. So, so that leads me, because this is kind of a short episode, I want to give an overview of poltergeist activity.
Okay.
Because it's super interesting and super creepy. But first, coffee break.
Okay. So with the Livingstons, now I kind of wonder, was there something up with their land, like their first farm and the new place they moved to? Or was there something up with them? Because like bad things happened at their first home and bad things happened at their second home.
No. I don't know. It's hard to say because, first of all, it's not an accepted part of the story necessarily.
The first part.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. But it makes a better story if it is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It really, to be honest with you, it doesn't even really have much to do with the story. It's just that, like, they moved...
Interesting coincidence.
They moved to this place because their other farm had weird stuff, like their cattle died and their farm burnt down or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is weird and not really supposed to happen, but this is totally different. And then they can pinpoint that the clipping and the poltergeist that came about specifically because he let this guy die.
Yeah.
So
that's sad for that guy.
There's been some videos, like the video that I watched that was like, this is the scariest thing, is that this guy they said that he may have killed him, which is not in anything that I read.
Yeah, why would he do that?
I mean, so anyway, we're going to get into poltergeists.
Okay.
So what do you know of poltergeists?
There's a movie, isn't there, called Poltergeist?
Yeah. Yes, there is. So in ghost lore, a poltergeist, which is German for rumbling ghost or noisy spirit, is a type of ghost or spirit that is responsible for physical disturbances such as loud noises and objects being moved or destroyed. Most claims or fictional descriptions of poltergeists show them as being capable of pinching, biting, hitting, and tripping people. They are also depicted as capable of the movement or levitation of objects, such as furniture and cutlery, or noises such as knocking on doors. Foul smells are also associated with poltergeist occurrences, as well as spontaneous fires and different electronical issues such as flickering lights. They have traditionally been described as troublesome spirits who haunt a particular person instead of a specific location. Some variation of poltergeist folklore is found in many different cultures. Early claims of spirits that supposedly harass and torment their victims date back to the 1st century, but references to poltergeists became more common in the early 17th century. So many claimed poltergeist events have been proven upon investigation to be hoaxes. There's a physical researcher by the name of Frank Podmore. He proposed the quote-unquote naughty little girl theory for poltergeist cases, many of which seem to center on an adolescent, usually a girl. He found that the center of the disturbance was often a child who was throwing objects around to fool or scare people for attention. Skeptical investigator Joe Nickel says that claimed poltergeist incidents typically originate from an individual who is motivated to cause mischief. And according to Nickel, in the typical poltergeist outbreak, small objects are hurled through the air by unseen forces, furniture is overturned, or other disturbances occur, usually just what could be accomplished by a juvenile trickster determined on plaguing credulous adults. So, Nickel also writes that the reports are often exaggerated by credulous witnesses. Time and time again, other poltergeist outbreaks, witnesses have reported an object leaping from its resting place supposedly on its own when it is likely that the perpetrator had secretly obtained the object sometime earlier and waited for an opportunity to fling it, even from outside the room, thus supposedly proving he or she was innocent. So, interesting. Mm-hmm. There also, well, let me get back to it.
Okay.
I'll come back. So
circle back.
I don't want to get sidetracked on this because I have my notes neat, and you know how we are. So. According to research in anomalistic psychology, claims of poltergeist activity can be explained by psychological factors such as illusion, memory lapses, and wishful thinking. A study this was done by Lange and Haran in 1998. They wrote that poltergeist experiences are delusions resulting from the affective and cognitive dynamics of percipient's interpretation of ambiguous stimuli, which is a lot of big fancy words for you're making it up in your head to explain something that's not explainable, and you've reacted to this thing that happened that you can't explain by just calling it a ghost. Yeah. When it might not be.
I mean, maybe sometimes, but not all the time.
Yeah. So psychologist Donovan Rawcliffe has written that almost all poltergeist cases that have been investigated turned out to be based on trickery, whilst the rest are attributable to psychological factors such as hallucinations. Attempts have also been made to scientifically explain poltergeist disturbances that have not been traced to fraud or psychological factors. Skeptic and magician Milbourne Christopher found that some cases of poltergeist activity can be attributed to unusual air currents, such as a 1957 case on Cape Cod, where downdrafts from an uncovered chimney became strong enough to blow a mirror off a wall, overturn chairs, and knock things off shelves. So there's a physical aspect of this sometimes, every once in a while. Mm-hmm. Now, in the 1950s, Guy William Lambert proposed that reported poltergeist phenomenon could be explained by the movement of underground water causing stress on houses. He suggested that water turbulence could cause strange sounds or structural movement of the property, possibly causing the house to vibrate and move objects. Later, researchers such as Alan Gauld and Tony Cornell tested Lambert's hypothesis by placing specific objects in different rooms and subjecting the house to strong mechanical vibrations. They discovered that although the structure of the building had been damaged, only a few of the objects moved a very short distance. The skeptic Trevor H. Hall criticized the hypothesis, claiming that if it was true, the building would almost certainly fall into ruins. So could it be seismic activity? Probably not, because that would show up on a seismometer. So probably not. Even like the smallest little earthquakes will show up on seismic, like seismographs or whatever. So they're recorded. Mm-hmm. So if it was, and if you were having poltergeist activity every time, then no. So, but it's mentioned, so I'm mentioning it here just to explain either way. But retired physical chemist David Turner claimed that ball lightning could cause objects to move around, which also kind of insane. Like, I was under the impression that ball lightning was a pretty rare occurrence, and you would expect it to not happen super often in like a specific place. So, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I don't know a whole lot about it, but
yeah,
it makes sense.
So it's one of those things where they're like, for like alien sightings in the 50s, everybody was like the government said, no, it's ball lightning. That's what you're seeing. And it wasn't. So anyway, parapsychologists Nandor Fodor and William G. Roll suggested that poltergeist activity can explain by psychokinesis. Historically, actual malicious spirits were blamed for apparent poltergeist-type activity, such as objects moving seemingly on their own accord. According to Alan Kardec, the founder of Spiritism, poltergeists are manifestations of disembodied spirits of low level belonging to the sixth class of the third order. Under this explanation, they are believed to be closely associated with the elements fire, air, water, and earth. In Finland, somewhat famous are the case of Makaila Ghost, of the Makaila Ghost in 1946, which received the attention of the press at the time, and the Devils of Martin in a city that I can't pronounce at all. I'm not even sure that these letters mean even the same thing, but I'm going to try. I think it says Yojarvi.
Okay, we'll accept it.
In the late 19th century, which so there were affidavits obtained in court for that case. But so that guy, Alan Kardec, there's a type of spiritism that he's famous for founding. Like I said, so this specific class of spiritism, there's like orders of spirits. And so he says that these are, they're low level spirits belonging to the sixth class of the third order. So there's like orders of these spirits, and there's different classes of each of them. So it's all a bunch of mumbo jumbo and a bunch of like woo woo kind of spiritualism stuff that is a bunch of garbage. So anyway, sorry to the people that are like spiritualists, and they're like, hey, I'm a hippie. You don't offend me like that. Stop. Anyway, so psychoanalyst Carl Gustav Jung, he's pretty famous in a lot of different ways. But so he was interested in the concept of poltergeist and the occult in general. Jung believed that a female cousin's trance states were responsible for a dining table splitting in two and his later discovery of a broken bread knife. Jung also believed that when a bookcase gave an explosive cracking sound during a meeting with Sigmund Freud in 1909, he correctly predicted there would be a second sound, speculating that such phenomenon were caused by exteriorization of his subconscious mind. Freud disagreed and concluded there was some natural cause. Freud biographers maintain that the sounds were likely caused by the wood of the bookcase contracting as it dried out. So,
yeah, maybe.
There's my overview of poltergeist.
Good job.
Also, that whole Wikipedia article on poltergeist has a list of poltergeist cases.
Ooh.
So remember, I told you I copied and pasted that list to our Google Doc of episodes.
Yeah, I saw it. Mm-hmm.
So some of them are garbage.
Okay.
So it might be worth just doing like, I don't know, like an episode on like the lamest poltergeist ever.
No, we'll do an episode on the coolest poltergeist ever.
We'll do both. I'm going to go through this list.
Lame ones.
Here's a few of the cases. So there's the Glenluce Devil in 1654 to 1656, the Stockwell Ghost of 1772, which was later explained as a hoax. It got exposed. It was a hoax. The Bell Witch of Tennessee from 1817 to 1872, the Great Amherst Mystery from 1878 to 1879, and Jeff, the talking mongoose of 1931.
Okay, please do that one.
I've got some information on that right here.
Thank goodness.
Jeff, also referred to as the talking mongoose or the Dalby spook, was an allegedly talking mongoose, which was claimed to inhabit a farmhouse owned by the Irving family. The Irving family's farm was located at Cashin's Gap near the hamlet of Dalby on the Isle of Man. The story was given extensive coverage by the tabloid press in Britain in the early 1930s. The Irving's claims gained the attention of parapsychologists and ghost hunters such as Harry Price, Hereward Carrington, and Nandor Fodor, who we were talking about earlier. So some investigators of the era, as well as contemporary critics, have concluded that the phenomenon was a hoax that the Irving family perpetuated by using ventriloquism.
What?
So that's insane.
How did they get a mongoose to cooperate in ventriloquism?
I have no idea. So
I don't know about that.
In September 1931, the Irving family consisted of James, Margaret, and 13-year-old daughter named Voirey. They claimed they heard persistent scratching, rustling, and vocal noises behind their farmhouse's wooden walls panels that variously resembled a ferret, a dog, or a baby. According to the Irvings, a creature named Jeff introduced itself and told them it was a mongoose born in New Delhi, India, in 1852. According to Voirey, Jeff was the size of a small rat with yellowish fur and large bushy tail. By the way, I'm going to stop here and mention that Jeff is spelled G-E-F. And I kept thinking that it was called Geff, but on the Wikipedia article, you know how they always put the pronunciations? Mm-hmm. The pronunciation is J-E-F.
I like that.
Jeff. So
it's fancy.
Jeff spelled like Geff. Anyway. So the Irvings say that Jeff communicated to them that he was an extra clever mongoose, an earthbound spirit, and a ghost in the form of a mongoose, and once said, "I am a freak. I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into stone or a pillar of salt." The Irvings made various claims about Jeff. He supposedly guarded their house and informed them of the approach of guests or any unfamiliar dog.
Jeff sounds super cool.
Yeah.
I like Jeff.
But also his own description of himself is
he sounds kind of cute.
He's a mongoose born in New Delhi in 1852. But then also says that he's an extra clever mongoose, an earthbound spirit, and a ghost in the form of a mongoose, and once said, "I am a freak, I have hands and I have feet, and if you saw me, you'd faint. You'd be petrified, mummified, turned into a stone or a pillar of salt."
I love that.
Which makes me think that they never even saw the mongoose.
They just heard him.
Which is totally possible that it's just some guy in their walls.
Okay. That changes the whole story. I hate that, actually. I don't want that to be true.
Yeah, so anyway.
Ew.
So that's that. We might do an episode on some of these, and that might be included because that's creepy. But anyway.
People living in people's walls.
Yeah.
Oof.
Have you ever seen that movie, The Boy?
I don't think so.
There is, or no, what's it called? Brahms?
Mm-mm.
So Brahms is a little doll boy thing. And this lady gets, she's like called to babysit or something. And the parents, and it's like an old couple or whatever. And they're like, "Here's Brahms." And it's a doll. And she's like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me.
Ugh.
This is insane." And it's a doll. And they're
immediately.
They're like, "Here's a list of all the things you have to do. Make sure you give him a kiss before bed. Make sure that you dress him in his clothes before bedtime. Make sure you dress him like nice for the day. Make sure you go through his lessons with him. Make sure all of this stuff." They have a list of things that she has to do every day. And she's like, "I don't get it. This is a doll. I don't have to," but she's like, "I'm just going to leave it and then make sure the house is okay for the entire time that I'm here for a couple of weeks." So anyway,
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, so spoiler alert, the doll starts moving around.
Yeah.
And she's like, what the heck's going on? And it turns out the Brahms doll is based on their son, who there was some stuff that happened a long time ago, and he lives in the walls now.
No.
But he's grown up.
No.
And so at the end, he like breaks out of the walls and they fight. Yeah. It's insane. It's so scary.
So scary.
Go watch Brahms. It's such a good movie.
Even though we just told you what happened, but.
Yeah. Well, we said spoiler alert beforehand, so you should have skipped ahead. Anyway, so it's so, oh my gosh. It's so good. They have more, I think there's more than one movie of that.
Yeah.
I think there's 2 now.
I saw a video of that happening like in real life. This has been years ago that I saw this video, but a dude had like security cameras in his house. And this woman was like living up in his attic. And when he would go to work, she'd come down and get food out of his fridge and stuff and like use his bathroom and everything and then go back up in the attic.
Yeah, I saw that.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
Yeah. So you might have a guy living in your ceiling right now.
Yeah, I actually think about that sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, I hope I don't.
I hope not.
That's awful.
But if you hear like any kind of like sound now after this podcast for about a week, you're going to be like freaking out.
Thankfully though, like our attic access is really difficult to get to. So hopefully if someone did get up there, they kind of earned it to live in the attic because it is challenging.
Yeah.
Please don't live in my attic. Please get out.
Anyway, so there is another poltergeist called the Black Monk of Pontefract. So there's a movie. This is from the 1960s to the 70s. Mm-hmm. There's a movie called When the Lights Went Out, and that is loosely based on a claimed poltergeist haunting known as the Black Monk of Pontefract, said to happen in the home of Joe and Jean Pritchard at 30 East Drive, Pontefract, West Yorkshire. So really doxing their entire address here. Anyway, according to Jean Pritchard's sister-in-law, Renee Holden, alleged supernatural disturbances by a poltergeist given the nickname Fred included throwing things around, freezing rooms down, creating water puddles, and making noises. Pritchard's daughter, Diane, was supposedly dragged upstairs by her neck. The incident was locally popular but largely unknown elsewhere until Colin Wilson wrote a book about it in 1981 that gained notoriety among paranormal aficionados. And director Pat Holden stated that he embellished the story to make it fit into a horror movie template. So.
Fair enough.
But it's kind of neat. So
that is neat.
There's another movie that you should watch probably is When the Lights Went Out. And then you can tell me if it's any good because I haven't seen that.
Oh, can I interject about movies really quick?
Yes.
Before I forget. Last weekend, Dirk and I watched Talk to Me, and we watched the new Insidious movie. I think it was Insidious The Red Door is the name of the new one. Both were so good. Talk to Me is an excellent example of what we were talking about in Lake Shawnee, that you should not go messing with spooky stuff because bad things are going to happen to you. Perfect example in that movie. And Insidious was really good too. The Insidious movies scare the crap out of me. All of them. Every single one of them scares me so much, but I love them. They're so well done. I think Insidious, the final key, was the scariest, in my opinion, out of the whole series, but the new one was pretty good.
Yeah.
So, highly recommend. If you haven't seen those, they're worth watching.
I really love all of the movies that involve Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Me too.
Even though, like, I know there's some controversy surrounding them.
Yeah.
People say that they're hoaxers or something.
Yeah, but their
honestly,
stories are good.
we should do some episodes about them.
Yeah.
Because there is some good evidence both ways.
I think, aren't Ed and Lorraine Warren in the Conjuring universe, not the Insidious movies? It has the same actors. But I think Ed and Lorraine are in the Conjuring universe movies.
The Annabelle is their thing, right?
Yeah, that's all connected. The Conjuring, Annabelle, The Nun, that's all the big movie universe. Yep. Insidious is separate from that, but that has the same actors, so it looks like the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like all of those too. Dirk didn't like Annabelle. He thought it was stupid. He made fun of it like the whole time. But I watched it the first time without him, and I thought it was really scary. Yeah, all of those movies scare me, but I love them. They're really.
So Melinda makes fun of me because I am terrified of, like, number one. So like ghosts are already scary.
Yeah.
Little girl ghosts are
the worst.
Even scarier. They're the worst. Mm-hmm. Little girl ghosts in dolls that can like move around and
catastrophic.
Stuff. Terrible. Mm-hmm. And also, So in the Annabelle movies, they make it like a really spooky, scary doll.
Yeah.
It's just a Raggedy Ann in real life.
In real life, it's a Raggedy Ann doll.
Which is even more scary because everybody has a Raggedy Ann.
And it looks nice and innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I just got chills thinking about it. That's so scary. Just a normal toy being evil.
Yep.
Bad.
Imagine if, like, I don't know, like your Tickle Me Elmo.
Yeah.
So, which I think that was a thing a while back.
Yeah.
So, anyway, let's move on.
Back to it.
There's the Rosenheim poltergeist in 1967. That's the name given to claims of a poltergeist in Rosenheim in southern Bavaria in the late 1960s by German parapsychologist Hans Binder. Binder alleged that electrical and physical disturbances in the office of lawyer Sigmund Adam were caused by the telekinetic powers of 19-year-old secretary Annemarie Schaber. Binder's investigations had been criticized for omitting key details and avoiding naturalistic explanations. According to Binder, in the autumn of 1967, he was requested to investigate disturbances in Adam's legal offices, which reportedly occurred only on the weekends. It was claimed that lighting fixtures exploded, swung back and forth, or had their bulbs removed. Heavy office furniture was shifted and copier fluid leaked from the office copier. Additionally, the staff denied having made a large number of outgoing calls to a correct time service that were changed to the firm's telephone company or charged to the firm's telephone company account. The electric company reported evidence of malfunctions due to substantial surges in the power system, and Binder alleges that unspecified tests were made by the physicist Frederick Karger and Gerard Zika, who reported that some unknown form of energy is at work. Binder claimed that heavy filing cabinets were reported to have been pushed across the floor by an invisible force, and that a framed painting was captured on film rotating around its hook. Calling her a typical poltergeist, Binder believed that emotional unhappiness of Annemarie Schaber, a young secretary at the firm, was converted into psychokinesis. He said that Schaber told him she was frustrated with her job and distressed over a broken marriage engagement. According to Binder, the alleged poltergeist activity ceased when Schaber left the law firm and was married. Which brings me to what I said I was going to come back to before. This is, so when I was a kid, I used to watch these shows like A Haunting and all this stuff. One of these shows that it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like lame now, where like they've got these people doing interviews and telling them about their hauntings, and then they interspace it with dramatizations of what was going on. And so I used to watch those. Anyway, so I remember watching one of these episodes of some show like this where there was a poltergeist going on, and it turns out that what they explained it with was this girl who had like grown up, and she was like just now like coming into middle school, and I guess like they were like, yeah, she just started puberty, and so all of these like hormones and stuff are freaking out in her, and that's causing her to be really stressed out, and she is super sensitive to all of this energy and stuff, and so it's her fault.
What?
And that's why all this stuff is moving around and everything. And so she's psychokinetic, moving everything because she's a teenage girl.
Okay. Interesting theory.
Yeah. So I was reading this and I remember
that episode,
like very vividly, like that being their explanation for it. And I wish that I could find exactly what show it was so that I could like.
That's weird.
Yeah. All right. So there's the Amityville case in 1975, which we should also probably talk about
for sure
at some point. Is that on the list?
Probably.
It is now because I copied and pasted. Anyway, the Enfield poltergeist in 1977. There's the Ammons haunting case in 2011. That's the most recent one. It's known as the 200 Demons House or Demon House. And it's an alleged haunting and demonic possession which occurred in Gary, Indiana in the United States in 2011. LaToya Ammons, her mother, Rosa Campbell, and her 3 children claimed paranormal activity occurred in the residence. The story was publicized in January 2014 and received national attention I won't go into too much detail because I'd actually kind of like to do an episode on that. But in 2014, Zach Bagans purchased the house for $35,000. Imagine house prices.
What show was he on?
Ghost Adventures.
Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
So he bought it for $35,000 and demolished it in January 2016 after filming a documentary in it titled Demon House. It was released on March 16th, 2018. Dread Central's Steve Barton called it one of the single most compelling documentaries on the existence of supernatural that I've ever witnessed. Los Angeles Times reviewer Noel Murray called the film hooey. So,
well, it's two polar opposite opinions. Why did he just demolish the house?
Because it's full of demons.
Oh, fair.
According to skeptical investigator Kenny Biddle, the film has been characterized as a pseudo-documentary, meaning it is filmed in a documentary style but doesn't portray any real events. So that's everything. That's everything I wanted to talk about today.
That was good.
Yep.
I liked it. Good job.
So, yep.
The Livingston story definitely has some spooky parts in it, but I would not say it's the scariest Appalachian ghost story.
It's
weird and it's creepy and scary, but I don't think it's the scariest.
If we're talking about ghost stories,
I think Lake Shawnee is scarier than that.
No, this is way scarier than Lake Shawnee. Lake Shawnee is child's play compared to this story.
I don't know.
Lake Shawnee, people don't get, their chickens don't fall off their heads.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's awful, actually. I forgot that detail.
By the way, so they said...
That's so scary. I take it back.
The chickens' heads fall off and their feet would fall off and stuff. Almost like if they were cut off by an invisible force.
I forgot you said that until just now.
So...
That's pretty horrible.
So that brings me to like, was that a precursor to the clipping? Or did it happen in conjunction with, and it was just like...
that's way worse than sheets getting cut up.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, was it just like put out of order over time, like maybe. This?
Because that's definitely so much worse.
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's pretty interesting that like, so the Livingstons, they actually converted to Catholicism like pretty hardcore and donated all their land and stuff, like 38 or 36 acres or something like that. So one of the articles I read actually listed it in hectares. Do you know what a hectare is?
I've heard of it. I don't know.
It's like a measure of land.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like so many and a half acres, like 3.5 acres or 5.5 acres or something like that. Mm-hmm. But they're like, yeah, it's 38 acres or 14 hectares. It's like, who cares? No one has used the measurement hectare in like at least 1,016 fortnights. No one uses the term fortnight either. Like,
come to my 3rd grade classroom.
Yeah, well, that's in a different context. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stories. That was interesting, and it opens up, the door to future episodes to talk about some of those specific poltergeists.
Yeah.
So
also,
that's interesting.
This is. Do you know what episode this is?
5.
Episode.
You don't
5.
count the mini episode.
That's a handful.
Mm-hmm.
So plus the mini episode, which would make it 6, but this is episode 5, so we've done a handful of episodes.
Yay!
We are officially podcasters, I think.
Yeah, and we got the Amazon thing.
We have a lot of new people following our Facebook now. Mm-hmm. So shout out to all of those people.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
So one of those things, like, thanks to everybody that's like a new follower of the podcast, but also leave us a 5-star review because we're good.
Thank you.
And
we appreciate all the likes and all the shares. There's several of my coworkers that have been listening. That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
All my family, all my friends, everybody that's listening. It's awesome. We really appreciate the support.
Thanks.
Say that a little nicer, please.
Thanks. That sounded worse. No, it's cool that like more people listen.
Yeah.
Cause like, I don't know. I guess we don't have like thousands of followers, but if we were doing a podcast and you had like 100 people standing here,
Yeah, that's so many.
That's
And we really are just doing this for fun, but it is exciting that it's getting out there and people are listening and it's getting shared.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool. So anyway, that's pretty much the episode. I don't think I have anything else that I want to cover, but no, I just wanted to say it is cool to have more people following us now and more people sharing the podcast. And when you see the post pop up for the episode, the photo dump, hit the share button, hit the like button, heart react button.
Please share it. I think on our next episode, I don't want to say this is set in stone because I might change my mind, but I think I'm going to do the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good story. Good in a bad way. It's a bad thing that happened there, but it's a good story.
And we forgot to mention this at the start of the episode, so we have to mention it the next one.
Okay.
But October.
Cryptid Extravaganza!
Cryptid Extravaganza. We're going to do an episode every single week about a different cryptids.
Yes. Should I say what those are or wait?
No.
Okay. But
we'll do an actual big announcement at the start of the next episode and say everything. Okay. So if you're
really
a dedicated, a real dedicated follower, a real creep, then you've made it this far and you'll know that we're doing this thing and we forgot to announce it. Mm-hmm. But I knew every time we make announcements at the start of an episode and there's like, we always ask, like, is there anything else? And we're like, nope. All right, let's start.
There's always something else.
There's always something. So
even with notes, like I had notes of everything to talk about at the start of this one and still forgot that. But it's fine. We said it.
Yep. So here's something. Cryptic Extravaganza. You're going to do maybe the Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum next week?
Yeah, most likely.
I have a very special cryptid episode before the Cryptid Extravaganza.
Ooh, pre-cryptid special.
Yep. And it's because listen, I saw this video on YouTube and it was the most famous monsters in every state in America. It's called like your state has a monster, your state has a cryptid or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it goes through like all these ones I've never even heard of. So I kind of want to do something like that. And just what are all the monsters that we have? Because a lot of them, like, I've never heard of.
Yeah, when we were at Cryptid Bash, I found a lot in West Virginia that I hadn't heard of.
Yeah.
That was cool.
There's a lot in West Virginia we haven't heard of, and a lot in just general Appalachia that we haven't heard of. But there's some in like the monster in Colorado is like this insane thing. So anyway, so then I was visiting my girlfriend and her daughter was like, you have to watch this video. And it's the same video.
That's so cute.
So she's like, you got to watch and listen to what this is because this is crazy. I'm like, okay. So we're sitting here, I'm like rewatching the video with her.
I love her support.
So yeah.
And I also love that she said I'm the funniest of the two of us.
She said you're funnier and she says you have a better radio voice.
She's the best.
Which, number one, neither of those are true.
According to her, they are.
No, well, she's 10. So I don't want to hear it.
I do want to hear it. Please keep the compliments coming. Yep. You rock.
So yeah, I want to do something like that before we actually do like a full month of monsters.
Mm-hmm. That'll be cool. I'm really looking forward to that.
So were you going to mention?
Cut that all out.
I remember last week or last episode we talked about my new car.
Yeah.
I found things that I hate about it.
No.
You've had
it for like a week, maybe 2.
I've had it since the 11th.
Oh, so sad.
I found a couple of things that I really cannot stand about this car.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Okay. They're not big deals, so I'm not.
Let's hear it.
So the number one thing is that, and it's, I guess, part of the technology that I just don't understand is whenever it connects to the Apple CarPlay thing, and I can pull up the Spotify and the Google Maps and everything on my phone, on the actual car itself, which is super convenient, and I love that, it will not let me have Wi-Fi connected. Like the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi in your car?
No, it won't let me have that Wi-Fi option on my phone turned on. You know what I'm saying?
But why would you need that in your car?
So that's what I'm saying is that it turns it off automatically.
Oh, and then when you're done driving, you have to go in and turn it back on?
No. So listen.
What is the issue?
So I don't have good service at my house. I don't have good service at my girlfriend's house. I don't have good service because it's Southern West Virginia.
Right.
There's never any good service. So I have my Wi-Fi connected to the house.
Right.
And I am going and I'm digging up a podcast or whatever to watch.
Okay, I see.
And I turn on my car and then it disconnects me from the Wi-Fi, and so now I can't pull anything up.
I do see.
Because I don't have any service. And then I got to go in and turn the Wi-Fi on, and it disconnects the CarPlay. and for whatever reason, I don't understand why that is. But then I have to go into the car because it won't. I don't turn off my Wi-Fi, and then it automatically connects back. I have to go into the car.
This is such a spoiled problem.
And I have to hit the phone button, and then click my thing and turn off the CarPlay and turn it back on.
Oh, and you poor thing.
Like, first world problem, but it's irritating. So irritating.
I honestly don't think I've ever noticed if mine does that or not, but I'll check next time I go. Well, who do you have? Like, who's your phone through?
AT&T.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I don't have that issue.
Okay. Anyway.
I'll look into it for you.
So listen, then there's a thing of if I don't have my seatbelt buckled and I try to drive like up the driveway or something because it's a long driveway and I don't need my seatbelt buckled.
Yeah, you do. You should always have your seatbelt buckled.
I'm in a driveway.
It doesn't matter.
And then I got to get out and take the trash out.
Click it or ticket.
In my own driveway.
Yeah, buckle up.
And then it dings. And then sometimes it won't stop even if I put it in park.
It does not stop.
So then I got to
open the door.
So I'm like,
just put your seatbelt on. That is an easily solved problem.
No.
Yes.
I'm in a battle with my car.
Seatbelts save lives.
The other thing is that sometimes it sometimes when I have my car on, I put it in drive and I go to move it, but I have the door open. You know what I'm saying? Like,
what?
Listen, sometimes.
What is wrong with you?
Sometimes I just need to move it like a couple of feet, so I get in and I put it in drive. How
often is this an issue for you that you need to move your car with the door open?
Once a week.
What?
I don't know.
What are you doing?
Anyway, I just get in, I don't close the door, and I put it in drive and I move. If I'm like at the range or something, I'll get in, I'll have the door open, and I'll just back up like slightly or whatever. Okay. And it makes the loudest buzz, like constant sound. Don't awe me like sarcastically. Oh my God.
So sad.
It is. It is. This is, oh my gosh. You just don't understand.
Brand new car, get on your nerves. Your life's so hard.
Shut up. Jeez. I can't get any sympathy.
No. Anyway.
And so, but the other thing that I do love about it is that, like, I can just walk up and I put my hand there and it unlocks. Mm-hmm. That's like space age technology. I didn't even know was a thing. And then, because in your car, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, it does.
And I have to jiggle the door handle before it unlocks a bunch.
No, it does do that. But the issue is that you always get to my car before me and you just start trying to rip the handle off the door before you even give me the chance to unlock it. But it does do that.
Do it faster.
Your legs are twice the size as mine. You get to my car first when we walk.
The unlock works from like 100 feet away.
No, but I'm not taking my keys out of my purse. I'm just walking up to the door and doing it with proximity.
You're insane.
You're driving regularly with your door open, and I'm the insane one.
No, I'm not. I'm not driving. I'm moving my car like a couple of inches.
All right. Before we tear this friendship apart and ruin the podcast, let's end this episode.
No, so then also it's got that, it automatically unlocks. My other first world problem is that sometimes I want to get in the back seat, like put my camera bag or something in the back seat. And so I automatically unlock the door. And then I'm like, oh yeah, my bag. And I go to do the back. The back doesn't do it.
Oh.
So then,
oh, you gotta take 1 second and press the button. That's so hard. Oh.
Yeah, I'm spoiled.
Poor thing.
I hope that when people listen back to this, they're like, wow, Hannah is just really terrible. I hope they're like, yeah, she's really just mean to her friend.
You're complaining about your super nice brand new vehicle. It's so nice. And you have had like 15 minutes of complaining about it. So yeah, I'm going to give you a little bit of grief. Be grateful. It's such a nice car.
No, it is super nice.
Get over it.
I love it.
It is so nice.
But listen, if Subaru is listening, I hope that they fix these things with the 2025 model.
Subaru, if you're listening, I have no complaints. Keep doing what you're doing. My car is amazing. I love it.
I'll tell you one thing that's awesome is that I get about 450 miles per a tank of gas.
Yeah, that's great.
And I was getting I had my Jeep Wrangler and I was getting 300 miles for a tank of gas. So already 150 miles extra, 50% increase on my mileage.
Yeah.
And it costs me $20 less to fill up a tank. So for $20 less, I'm getting 150% the mileage that I was. So what the heck?
You're not getting 150%.
I'm getting, yeah.
No, that's not how percentage.
Yeah, because I was getting 300.
Right.
And now I get 450. So
that's 150 more miles, but I don't think that's 100%, is it?
150% of the mileage that I was getting before. Yeah. Because 100% would be 300 miles. And then the 50% of 300 is 150. So if I get 450, that's 100% plus 50%. That's 150% of the mileage that I was getting before.
That doesn't sound right to me.
You're a third grade teacher. You should know this.
Okay, maybe cut that out.
No, you're going to look dumb on the podcast.
I don't want to look dumb on the podcast.
No, you made me look dumb complaining about my car. Now you look dumb.
Okay.
So
anyway.
So the gas mileage is awesome. I love it. And the windshield wipers are great. Jeep windshield wipers, trash.
Yeah.
They're garbage. You can barely see anything. It wipes. You can't see anything. In this car, I can see everything. It's amazing. So, Anyway, that's it. That's all I want to say.
You might have been right about the mileage.
I might. 100% I am.
Okay.
Listen.
I'll give you that one. My bad. Everybody makes mistakes, Shane.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, not me. The only mistake I ever made was starting a podcast with my best friend.
Anyway, please end this episode.
Okay, episode's over. Be safe driving home. Put your seatbelt on so it doesn't ding at you super loudly. Make sure your door's shut.
And
watch out for the not deer.
Bye. Merry Christmas.